It's one area that tends to be overlooked by patients exploring transgender medicine programs. But feeling comfortable in your own skin is a big part of what can help someone feel more like themselves. And at Middlesex Health, hormone therapy is just as important as the surgical procedures themselves. I sat down with the program's medical director, Katie Tierney, who shared more. Katie Tierney, it's great to see you again. It has definitely been a couple months since we've last chatted. And, being that you're so involved with Middlesex Health and the transgender medicine program there, I can imagine things are quite busy.
Things are incredibly busy. We've actually been pleasantly surprised about how many patients are actually coming in to get their care or doing telehealth, which has been a great addition to our ability to do healthcare these days. And I think especially this week, people in our trans and gay and lesbian communities will breathe a huge sigh of relief and know that we will now have an administration that's willing to say the words gay and transgender on a national stage and back us up in the healthcare sphere. So that's very exciting.
Absolutely. Knowing that there's additional support and that the transgender community can breathe that sigh of relief, I'm sure is definitely hitting a lot of people in different ways emotionally, right?
Absolutely.
So speaking of emotional, it seems like a pretty good segue with our topic today. So we're talking about hormone therapy and the importance of hormone therapy, which, no matter what gender you are, it does seem to be an area where there are some stigmas that are put on how women deal with hormones, how men deal with hormones, and they're not the same. So when we're dealing with hormone therapy within the transgender community, how is it different?
Well, one of the things I've learned sort of over time is that I think we live in a binary society. We like to have our male and female sort of targets, and I'm learning more and more. We definitely don't have a binary culture in the sense that many people live in both the male and female boxes. Some people live in the in between. Some people live in none of the boxes, and so I've learned to refer to hormone therapy as masculinizing or feminizing rather than male or female, partly because we're sort of drifting. We're not hurtling towards a target. We're just sort of trying to find our way. And so, so in terms of hormone therapy in general, I always sort of joke that stereotypes exist for a reason, because so much of what we experience as a culture in our gender is based on our hormones, right? So people who have estrogen in their bodies tend to be more emotional, tend to cry more often, or feel things more deeply, or at least that's how we view it. Whereas people who have testosterone in their bodies tend to be, more muscular or more aggressive, or, we have all these stereotypes that go along with that. And in some ways, we do find in trans patients, they will tell me that, if they go on feminizing hormone therapy, that they cry for the first time, they can cry for the first time in their lives. They're feeling things more deeply in a way that they had always expected to. So, they grew up believing that their gender was female, and they kept having these sort of roadblocks in terms of testosterone and not feeling the way that they needed to. In a similar way, my patients who are in masculinizing therapy will often say they feel less of that emotional roller coaster, which is absolutely rooted in the sort of hormone basis of our, hormone fluctuations.
Obviously, we need to nurture people in different ways. So talking about how you would nurture one compared to the other, and it is all bio-individuality, regardless of what type of therapy is, each person's different. How do you take that approach at Middlesex with your patients?
So there's two approaches. One is helping people be confident in who they are, so that when they meet the outside culture, that they can integrate in a way that makes sense for them, but also helping people to not hold themselves to a standard that's not attainable. So if you are a trans woman and you want to have gone through puberty as a girl and you didn't, there are some things about that we can't change physically, your bone structure, sometimes your voice. It just depends on what's going on. And I'm a firm believer in the absolute beauty of trans people, right? There's not none of us are ever going to be the thing that our brains expect us to be in terms of our physical presentation, and learning that self-acceptance and that body positivity and learning to love the skin you're in is so, so important. So there's two parts to that though, right? We have the culture telling us that we have to conform to some ideal, and we have ourselves trying to push us in that direction as well. And so, there's only so much we can do about culture. We have to talk about it. We have to change minds. We have to talk about opinions. But the one thing we have control about is our body positivity and how we feel about ourselves, and what kind of, barriers we're going to let go of so that we can be happy in the world. So hormones are fantastic. They're amazing. They're life-saving, but they are not the end of the story. There's so many pieces to this. And I really do think that it starts with, loving yourself.
I was just going to ask you if you had a final thought or anything for people that are considering this approach, but I think you just kind of summed it up really beautifully right there. So, Katie, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk with you and share time with you and empower the transgender community. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Middlesex Health has approximately 1,200 patients in their transgender medicine program, which offers a comprehensive range of care, many of which we've covered right here on Connecticut Voice Out Loud.